Parshas Balak, welcome back to the Gevurah Podcast. I'm sorry that I was out last week. I wasn't feeling well. I had a sinus infection. But we're back and we're better than ever. Parshas Balak says Azoi. Things weren't going well for us again. A couple Parshas here in a row. We started to get involved and marry other people, marry other nations. Then we're doing Avodah Zarah. And someone gets shish kebabbed and killed. Things aren't doing well pretty much within the span of the last 8 psukim. There is an Gili Arai, Shvichas Damim, and Avodah Zarah. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Pei Beis Amud Aleph and Pei Beis Amud Beis, gives us an insight as to what happened. Just to give you a brief summary, what happened was when we're doing all these Averis, we were marrying people that we were not allowed to marry, the Aramis nation. Arameans, I think, something like that. What happened was, all of a sudden, one of the leaders of Bnei Shimon got up and also married an Aramis, which was usher, to some extent, and the Rambam in those laws, and I'm not sure where, not sure, that when Shimon, when it was Zimri married Cosby in the middle of the streets, they were being mizana. They were doing arais in the streets. Everyone ran to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, Moshe Rabbeinu, what are we to do? And Moshe Rabbeinu was blocked. Hashem closed off his Ruach HaKodesh, closed off the psak. He didn't know. And everyone was just stuck. What do we do now? We look to our leader and everyone starts to cry, Rashi says. The Pasuk says this. And then, when everyone's stuck, when everything is at its worst, Pinchas gets up, Vayar Pinchas ben Balak. Pinchas saw, he got up, he made himself famous. At this point, I don't know if he was famous, and now he has a parsha named after him for this one Maisa. That's already a vart by itself. You can become famous and become a Gadol Adar in a pretty short amount of time. He got up, he knew the psak. These people have to die. And he shish kebabbed and killed both of them in the streets. 24,000 people had died in a plague at this time from all these averis that were committed. It's interesting that 24,000, we run through these psukim, 24,000 seems as though we need to make a lag ba'omer at the end of this week's parsha for 24,000 people dying. But Pinchas stabbed them. The kasha is like this. The halacha is that it's not so clear if Pinchas was allowed to kill her. He was supposed to die because he was an Ish Yisrael, as the pasuk says, but she was a guy. She was from Aramis, so it's not so clear if it was really mutter. That's the Or Chaim's kasha. A lot of the Acharayim talk about it. The Indian of kanoin pagim boy. If you are someone that senses something wrong that's going on in Klal Yisrael, are you allowed to jump up before a psak is made and do something about it? Here Pinchas did that, but it's not so clear, says the Or Chaim, that he was allowed to kill her. Ayin Sham, the end of this week's parsha, very interesting in what the Or Chaim answers. It's along the lines of that she was considered like somewhat of an animal for doing such an animalistic action in the streets. That maybe have been the heter. But we'll go like a different mahalach. We'll go with the Saba from Kelm, the Saba HaKodesh, who started Yeshivas Kelm, the Talmud Torah Yeshivas Kelm, where Rabbi Yerucham learned by, I think it was Reb Zundel Misalant, from Yisrael Misalant, or the other way, all the way back to Reb Chaim Volozhin, back from the Vilna Gaon. This mahalach, we'll say like this: a vart from Azus de Kedusha, a vart from Gevurah. What we see from this week's parsha, Hashem blocked off the Ruach HaKodesh from Moshe Rabbeinu in order to tell us, look, regular laymen are responsible for each other, that they have to get up with Gevurah, with strength. Everyone was headed one way, and Yenim, this one person, Pinchas, got up and fought back. He stabbed them in the streets. Who knows what everyone was saying around him? It probably was controversial at the time. Azus de Kedusha is something that means brazenness for your holiness. It's something that I would say might be controversial in the fact that nowadays, this is definitely going to be controversial, but anything that we want, we make mutter. It's just the way that the world is. We live in this type of world, and if it's the way that it is, I want something, even if it was previously prohibited by the Constitution or whatever it was, we make it mutter. Azus de Kedusha means to have some sort of brazenness for what's important. To say enough's enough. A little bit of a controversial point, but in a time when everything seems to be okay, Pinchas said, no, not everything's okay. It might not even necessarily been usher, klape this lady. But we see, Azus de Kedusha, Pinchas got up. Imagine a person's walking with his father, walking with his Rebbe. And someone walks by your Rebbe or your father. He's walking in like in a heilige way, and the guy comes by and steals your Rosh Hashiva's hat, steals your father's hat or his yarmulke, and starts to like laugh and make jokes. It's not an Aveira, but what's going on here? He's heilig, my father, my Rosh Hashiva. What? And you're just making light sonas? Achil Hashem? You have to do something about it. Now, there's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch that we can't go against. There's a halacha that if somebody's going to go and do something that's anti-Torah, it's against the Shulchan Aruch, we have a mitzvah of ha'icheach toichiach es amisecha. We must stop them or tell them. But there's also the opposite true. If we know they're not going to listen, we don't tell them. So this may not be halacha l'maisa, or it is, but a person has to know when it applies. Azus de kedusha. If someone's doing something that's not al pidas Torah, a person has to know. Is it on me to say something, to do something? Did someone just grab my Rosh Hashiva's hat when someone did something that's really not the Ratzon Hashem? The Saba from Gelb talks about this. If Pinchas, Rachmana litzlan, didn't have this midah of Gevurah, where would we be? Would everyone would have died from this plague of Moav, from what was going on? Gevurah is what saved Klal Yisrael in this week's parsha. Let us be mechazik that not everything's aser and not everything's mutter. But there are certain guidelines, and not everything's just okay. Let us be mechazik the Gevurah that we need. Have the oz kenemer. Let us be as bold as a lion. A heilige Shabbos.